Inside PressBox is presented by Maryland Live Casino. Always live, always on. And welcome back to Inside PressBox. Stan the Fan Charles, solo today, alongside the Orioles, Executive Vice President of Baseball Operations, Dan Duquette. And Dan, when you took over the Orioles, running the Orioles a few years back, you immediately, like out of the gate, signed Wei Chen, who was Taiwanese, right? But he had been playing in Japan, and a Japanese starting pitcher, Tayoshi Wada, who because of injury didn't pan out in Baltimore, made it back for the Cubs, with the Cubs for a little bit. But all of a sudden, you've got the Orioles is back in play again. You've signed this outfielder, Hwan-Soo Kim, and you've also signed a Chinese infielder who's Americanized. It's Ichi Shu, who's 19 years old. Talk a little bit about China. He's the first ever player signed from China?
Yeah, it's the first player signed by a Major League Baseball team from mainland China. And he's a first baseman, and his name is Ichi Shu.
Right.
And, you know, it's an interesting story because Major League Baseball has an academy in China, and they've been trying to develop a market for baseball and to train players and coaches in China to develop that market for Major League Baseball. Of course, it's a huge opportunity. You know, there's 7 or 8 cities in China that are the size of New York, right? So consider 8 New York Yankees, if you will, in China. But that's the market opportunity that Major League Baseball has. And when I was with the Brewers years ago, we signed a young player from Australia by the name of David Nielsen.
I remember him.
David Nielsen was an all-star catcher. He went on to be the best player from Australia.
Until he got Red River fever.
He got Red River fever, and that cut his career short.
Yes, it did.
But a very similar path in Australia was taken by Major League Baseball years ago when they sent clinicians or coaches over there to train the coaches. The coaches then trained the players, then the players came over to the States and they played. And now David Nielsen was the first everyday position player that came out of Australia, had a good career, and now he's gone back and he continues to help develop baseball in Australia. Well, that's what Major League Baseball is trying to do in China. You know, they have these academies around the world. They have them in Europe. They have these academies in the inner cities in the United States. They're putting them in South America and Brazil. And, of course, they have one out in China to develop the players, and that's the way to do it. We did that in Canada when I was with the Expos. We developed ball players and coaches, and eventually Canada beat the U.S. in the WBC. Why? Because there was years of growth and teaching.
Now, what about Korean players? We've seen a couple percolate into the major leagues. The guy with the Pirates last year, Hung, and then the Cubs have signed one right now, but you signed an outfielder that you're kind of counting on to be an important member of this lineup, aren't you?
Well,
Soo Kim.
You know, Kong, the shortstop the Pirates signed last year, had a good year. He did well with the bat. He's a good athlete. And Kim is a little bit better hitter than Kong. Kong has a little bit more power. But Kim is a lifetime 318 hitter. He's got a high on-base percentage.
He's got 345 lifetime? Something like
that,
360 lifetime.
Well, he's got a high on-base percentage. And he's a very good judge of the strike zone. He's got more walks than strikeouts, which are all good signs. Now, interestingly enough, he's a left fielder, okay? But he led the Korean League outfielders in putouts. Now, normally that would go to a center fielder, right?
Yeah.
A center fielder that can cover the ground.
Interesting.
But Kim is a good outfielder. He has played on the Korean national team, done very well in international play on the Korean teams that have done real well in a couple of world championships. So he's been a regular contributor on the international level. He's going to give it a shot, and we think he can help our ball club. He's just 28 years old, left-handed hitter, good on base man, and developing power. He had 28 home runs last year in a pitcher's ballpark over in Korea.
We've got just a couple minutes left. I want to talk about the team you build outside on the field. It looks like you're going to bring in Joe McIlvain as a special assistant, and Joe's a longtime baseball guy. You've also signed Jeremy Kapstein, who was with the Red Sox and Lucchino up in Boston for 14 years and used to be around this part, one of the first agents. And yet you've got a young lady that works for the team, Sarah Gellis, an Amherst grad, who's been promoted in analytics. You're kind of all over age-wise. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's a diverse group.
That is a diverse group.
you just talked about. But Jeremy Kapstein was the president of the San Diego Padres, and he was an agent when I was just getting started. I remember Harry Dalton used to talk about his negotiations with Jeremy. He had some good ones. But he's an excellent executive. He's going to help us in player personnel. And Joe McIlvain, former general manager with San Diego and the Mets, he's going to help us with our draft. We've got a very important draft this year with some extra picks. Joe's a dyed-in-the-wool scout and a really good role model for young people in the organization. And
how about Sarah?
Well, Sarah is she's an head of our analytics department. We just gave her a promotion. She's a very bright young gal, and she works on the analytics side. The numbers game is very important in baseball. We measure just about everything that happens on the field. Numbers
game is important here, and we're out of time. But could Sarah one day be a general manager? Do you think we'll see a female general manager?
There's a few general managers come from Amherst. It'd be appropriate if Sarah got there.
Thank you very much for coming in. We'll see you down at Sarasota in a few weeks. Hey, after the break, lacrosse legend Don Zimmerman previews his Retrievers' upcoming season. Turn $1 into $1 million playing today's Magic Million Fantasy Football Contest at fanpicks.com. Enter promo code PBO25 for a free $25. That's fanpicks.com.